Just 555, 555, 555, 10, 10.
Four shooters in, you're $60 out.
We just kept feeding that freaking ATS. I'm like, God, this is stupid. Like, we're just feeding it.
But all right, so my next question, you could have, sevens out the yin yang, and then the very next person could throw an ATS. Now this could be a dice setter, this could be a random shooter. I've seen random shooters throw them. Okay, so the question is, you talked about this in your show earlier. This past weekend at your event, you hit the ATS.
I've thrown the full ATS probably 5 or 6 times.
Okay, out of them 5 or 6 times, how many times have you been on all 3 bets?
Twice, maybe. Like, I just don't play it.
Why not?
I just don't.
Why not,
well,
John?
A, I don't trust myself, right? Yeah. B, I know it's a bleed. And C, I don't trust myself. I mean, honestly, when I threw it this weekend, literally, I told you, I walked up to that table and everybody was pissed off because it was a cold table. They all lost their shirt and everybody's cashing out. And I walk in, I get on the right side. I never throw from the right side because I'm not good at it. Again, throwing anything from the right side rotates my shoulder and it hurts, right? Whatever, I walk up, buy in, and they give me the dice. I'm like, shit. Don't pass bet, no ATS, and I popped it out. 15 rolls later, we got an ATS, everybody's freaking out, right? I don't trust that I can do that. I don't make the bet. I should, because I throw it enough times to do it. But in general, I think the ATS, when played correctly, can be a good bet. And I did a big video on never play the ATS because the casinos require, not all of them, but many of them now require a line bet to play it. You cannot make the ATS without a line bet or some other action. Yeah, like you can have a place bet 6 and an ATS is okay.
Yes.
But at Sahara, they required a line bet and it couldn't be a don't pass bet to play the ATS. They got,
so they're taking away your advantage. They're taking away the only advantage you have.
Exactly. So that pass line bet is a 22% chance to win, but really it's 16, right? On the sevens. Yep. That used to go in your rack or stacked up on the line. And that was a great bet. That was just a power play there to be made on the pass line, stacking those wins up. Now the ATS gobbles it up, right? You win your pass line, they come out 7, you're like, hell yeah, baby. Oh, I got nothing out of that because I got to replace my stupid ATS bet. The other day when I was with Jennifer and it was Chris, I think, I had a series of come outs where I think I threw 6 sevens during a series. It was like 6 sevens and 11 and whatever else. We just kept feeding that freaking ATS. I'm like, God, this is stupid. Like, we're just feeding it and never hit it. The random person hit it, but we didn't hit it. That's where the bleed is. Now, if you approach the ATS with an aggressive mindset, and Jacob from Waging Me This was talking about this on his show last night, where your pass line's a quarter if you're going 5-5-5. So on the 7, at least you're winning some money. And you can even take the $10 extra and stack it on top. So your next line bet is 30 or 35 with the 5-5-5. So when you get those wins, they're more meaningful on the line. You're getting something out of it. Plus your pass line bet's now high enough that when you hit the point, again, it covers it up. And if you progress the ATS slowly, go from 5-5-5 to 6-6-6 to 7-7-7 to 8-8-8, every time every time it resets, if you catch it on that ladder and the pass line ladders up with it appropriately and you're hammering the wins, you can make it work. But it takes bankroll and it takes patience, and you got to play only for that. You cannot be that plus the pass line plus a cross and pressing like a crazy person and praying to God that somebody goes off. If you're going to play the ATS that way, you've got to be tactical on it. It can be a good thing, but it can also be the reason why most people at the table burn a bankroll. I've watched people just 5-5-5, 5-5-5, 5-5-5, 10-10.
4 shooters in, you're $60 out.
Yeah, well, and besides that, they lose their focus on everything else. It's got its good points and its bad points. You can make a ton of money with it if you're a shooter and you're hitting it. And like I know people will say that if you can shoot, you can hit it, right? I've also heard people say that the more random type of thrower has a better chance of hitting it because they tend to live in the horn where we don't.
Okay.
Right? The controlled shooter lives in the box, not the horn, unless they're setting for it. And sometimes, I'm guilty of this, when you set for a horn number, you can produce a 7, right? Yeah. Because you've got some wacky setup in there. So it can be problematic. I think the math doesn't support playing it unless you can hit it. And
Well,
again, that goes into the whole controlled shooting thing. So
and I
that's
just
just
want to
my
be clear.
opinion.
I want to be clear of what you just said, because I don't want people to be mistaken of what you said. When you were saying that you add a bet or add a level each time, you're not talking about a martingale. You're
No, 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 no.
talking about a ladder style at $1
Tiny
unit
one,
each time, and
teeny tiny one.
your pass line is greater than is more than what your actual ATS is.
Yes, and your goal has got to be to get it back. So as an example, let's say you go 555 in a
Yep.
$25 pass line. Okay, so what is your risk in that case? You're $40 in risk, right?
Yep.
$15 plus 25. Now, if you happen to win on the pass line, let's say you got to come out 11 or a 7, fantastic, right? You got $10 in your rack. I'd rack the $10. I'm out there again for 25 and 555. My risk now is $30 because I've already pocketed 10. Right? Shooter sets a point. You need to now win $30.
Yep.
Some way, somehow, right? If it's inside, if it's 110 inside, one hit, turn that stuff off. Now you got 35 in your rack additional. You're $15 up on that shooter. Who cares? Let it play itself out, right? Don't go after the numbers. Let it play itself out. You paid for your ATS. You paid for your pass line. The shooter goes crazy. Awesome for you. If they don't, the next time through, the $15 that you had pays for your first 555, and you're back on the pass line for more again. If you do that kind of a thing and you're paying attention, you can make it worth it. If you make sure that you focus on paying for it before you do anything else, you got to pay for those 2 bets. Then I can see strategy built around that. But other than that, just drop in minimum pass line and the equivalent on the ATS. You're going to bleed yourself dry, especially if you can't.
And I see Victor's question down here, and I'm not going to answer it because I don't know the answer, but I'll tell you what I do. I do play the ATS. I play it again. I don't play it at a 555 level. I'm typically like if the casino allows it, like a 424 or something like that. That way I'm leveraging a little bit higher on the outside end or outside of lows or highs or lows, whatever. But I don't play a pass line because I'm not. I don't want to take that double bleed every time. That's
Yeah.
my portion. That's my version of it. I usually do inside bets and then an ATS where I'm losing $10 at a time. I'm okay with risking. See, I'm okay with that risk. I'm okay with the $10 risk each time because in 10 rolls and 10 shooters, if you hit one of those ATSs, what is it, 60? If I'm putting at $4 or about $60 or something like that, I don't know the numbers right off my head. But I mean, I don't feel like I'm losing that much, and the chance of getting 2 of them is I've seen it quite a few times. What do you think about it's a hedge bet on the come out playing the ATS versus the pass line or whatever it is?
I don't know. I mean, I tend to hate hedging, generally speaking, right?
Yep.
So,
agreed.
If you're going to play the ATS without the line, like let's just put it out there. If you could do it, if you could just do 555 forever, right? And have no line bet, and you could say let's just let it ride. So that's $15 a shooter, 10 shooters in, you're at $150, right? If they don't win, if the 11th shooter hits one leg, how much money did you win?
You're making me do hard math. 120, 150. It's still 150,
right? Yeah. So 10 shooters zero you out. The 11th shooter wins you 150. You're exactly tied at that point. Actually, you're $10 down because you lost the other 2. You're down $10 at the 11th shooter hits just the tall, right? Was it worth it to do that? Right. And it takes 30 shooters to make it right. Typically it's every 30 shooters a show hits the tall or the small. In that case, you're going to be down so far you can't make it back. That's why the progressive works, because the progression extends you out to like 19 or 20 shooters before you had that negative point. And that's where I think if you've got the bankroll to say my side bet money today is going to be $300, all for the ATS. I'm going to give it $5, $5, and $5 for 20 shooters. I'm going to burn $300 trying to make the tall or the whole thing. That's you got to treat it as a side bet. You cannot bring your regular $1,000 bankroll and say, I'm playing my way. Oh, and also the ATS. And where'd my money go? Because that's where I think people make the mistake, is not managing that part of it right.
Well, I still like that variation of not. Again, you can't do it on every casino. I know they could do it on the carnivals. That's typically what I cruise on. I know Vegas probably doesn't allow as much, but I mean, if you had that option of not putting the 5 by 5, but if you limited the all portion of it, and then, a little bit higher on the 4, or the 4-2-4 or something like that, then you're limiting your risk per shooter, yet you're still getting a good payout on each
Yeah.
high end or low end.
I know
Is
people
it
that
more
do it.
attractive?
Yeah, I know people that would tell you that the best way to play it is higher on the inside. Go 2-4-2,
Okay.
right, and stack up the inside because if you look at if I did a spreadsheet earlier today actually where I did all this and I'm like, what does it look like? And really, if you do just the tall, right, over and you give it 100 shooters to hit the tall, you'll still be in profit if you do a little bit of a ladder and you cover that action with your pass line or a regular bet versus the tall and the small bleed that thing out to the point where you start losing money at a shooter of 40 or 50. So it's better to, if you're going to go for it, freaking go for it. Get the inside, get the whole thing.
Yep.
If you're going to stack one of them, stack the middle one. Don't stack the outsides. That's where it makes most sense to me.